Yo guys, what is up? My name is Grizzly, and today I'm gonna do a quick guide for Yorick top lane. And this will be a very quick guide, but it will be quite informative, and it will teach you the basics of the champion and also what runes and masteries to run and what to build and so on. So to start things off, Yorick is a bruiser top. You could compare him to the likes of Garen or Darius or champions like that. He's very tanky naturally, and he also has a lot of lane presence, but outside of lane he can be quite kiteable, and his impact is also rather dependent on the enemy team comp and also how well you managed to do in lane. So to start things off with his abilities, his Q is basically an auto-attack reset, as you can see right there, and that's quite loud, so I think I'm gonna lower that real quick. So yeah, his Q is an auto-attack reset and it deals a lot of damage. It's basically like his main source of damage. And his W is CC, kind of. It's like a wall, as you can see, and they have to hit it with auto-attacks to break it. And depending on the ranks in the spell, they have to do more autos. The E is kind of a skill shot that deals magic damage based on their maximum HP, and it also slows them, and it works very well with his passive, which basically is that when you last hit with your Q, you summon graves, and I think it's like every 8 minions that die in lane, a random grave is also summoned. And when you have 3 or more, maximum is 4, you can activate your Q again and summon the ghouls, and if a target is hit by your E, the ghouls will automatically run to that target and start hitting them. Okay. So his ultimate is really good for split pushing. It summons 4 ghouls and the ultimate immediately, and the ultimate is basically another basically NPC that you can't control, but it deals a lot of damage and is quite tanky, and it also makes your autos deal more damage. Yeah, when Yorick damages the maiden's target, he will deal 7.5 10% of their max health as bonus magic damage, 2 second cooldown. So if you just like hit them with an auto attack every 2 seconds, you can hit them for a lot of their max HP. So the ultimate is really strong for dueling and in split push scenarios, but in team fights it's quite awkward since you can't control it really. Okay, so let's continue with going over his runes. Now for Yorick, I would just run pretty much this standard page most of the time, which is 9 armor, 15 AD and 12 magic resist, and depending on matchups you could go with CDR, because I think you will only most of the time build with 30% CDR, so this works quite well. It will get you to 40%. You could also go with the MR per level if you're against an AD laner and an AD jungler. So those are the 3 pages I would recommend. Anything other than that I think is quite bad, because you need the 15 AD because your Q scales so well during the early game. So that's basically the runes. They are very straightforward. Okay, so let's make a master page for Yorick here. So you want Crossbow the Undying pretty much every game, because you don't have any synergy with Courage. You won't have the uptime to utilize Fervor. It's kind of the same thing with Darius. Fervor is bad on him because you won't likely have the uptime to keep it up, but especially in fights later on. In lane dueling it can be fine in certain situations, but Grasp is better overall. So you want Recovery because unyielding is quite shit. It doesn't do much until the later game, and how armor and MR works is basically that the more armor you have, it diminishes. So basically the points in armor are more important early game, because late game you will have a lot of armor and magic resist anyway. Okay, so the next tier, Explorer is quite useless in lane. It can be good for roaming, but as Yorick you pretty much want to stay in lane all the time and you want to TP when it's necessary, so this isn't good. You won't really be pushed in, because this is when you're near an allied tower. You have really good pushing potential with your ghouls, so you basically take tough skin. This row, runic armor most of the time, because it scales so much better. Your Q has innate healing in it, so that's quite good. But you have to take veteran scars in matchups such as Riven. I would want to take it against Darius as well, but that's kind of a personal opinion. Basically matchups where you can die early game. So yeah, either of those are fine, but if you want something that's never wrong, just take runic armor. Next year, you can take Perseverance, actually in some lanes such as like Teemo and Quinn and stuff like that. That's really hard to deal with, but other than that, just take Insight. This can be good, but it's not that good on Yorick. I will actually probably do a video on this master, because it is quite good in certain scenarios. Basically, if the trades are short and they occur pretty much every like 10 seconds this mastery has a lot of value, but that's really matchup dependent, and it also varies depending on how much CDR the opponent has. Okay, so the next tier, legendary Guardian is quite bad. You want swiftness, but if the top laner or jungler doesn't have any CC, which like never is the case, then I guess you could go legendary Guardian, but mostly just swiftness and then grasp, as we talked about before. So in the Froster tree, I take Fury for easier last hitting, because I'm quite bad with last hitting with Yorick, I don't know why, but later in the game, like level 9 and after that, your ghouls do the last hitting for you most of the time, so then the spell damage is pretty much better, but I just take the Fury, like 2% ability damage isn't that much. Then I take Feast for the sustain, because you won't be able to proc this in most matchups on the cooldown. Like it's a 6-second cooldown, you won't be able to utilize it, so. Then the next tier you don't really benefit from AP, so I don't like this. I basically just take the sustain. But if you really want extra early AD, you could go 2 points in Vampirism and 3 points in Natural Talent and get some extra AD. So this is fine. This is like overall good. And then you want Battle Trance because you will do prolonged fights. But if you're like smurfing or something and you think you will get a lot of kills, then Bounty Hunter is the best choice. So that's basically the runes and masteries and Yorick's abilities. As for builds, I've seen a lot of people just go the Trinity Force Desrot route, and that route is fine, it's good on Yorick, most people do that. But I've also seen quite a lot of people in high elo in Korea go full tank, like Sunfire, and then maybe Iceborne Gauntlet, but most of the time Spirit Visage, and then go into Desrot and like build like no damage whatsoever. And that build is also really good, it's very solid, you will always have an impact with that build because you're so extremely tanky, and your ult will still make you deal a lot of percentile damage. But overall, I think the Trinity into Desrot, into Spirit Visage, Randuin's Omen, Deadman's Blade, Guardian Angel, all that good stuff is the best build to go on Yorick. It's quite straightforward. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching this guide, and I'll see you in the next video.